like the drums at the end. It's so fun. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of our Champion Reads Book Club. We've loved the conversations thus far. And this month we're covering conversations, discussions, evaluations, examples, and so much more from The Richest Man in Babylon. Now, as I was reading it and catching up the other day, I recognized something. Well, okay, I read it and then I was like, I need to speed through it again, just gather the main ideas, listening to it on Audible. And I have been pronouncing George S. Clason's name wrong. I've been saying Clason for some reason. So apologies, tomato to Mr. Clason, but I got carried away with your name. But this has been a really exciting book. And I want to welcome our two co-hosts, as well as our executive producers on the show, Miss Lauren Cobb, welcome, and Mr. Ian Stermer. And of course, I'm Jon Kovach Jr. And we're all part of the executive team over at Champion Circle Networking Association. But the book club is something we really, really wanted to continue to do and continue to put content out there and invite you to discuss with us. So if you want to contribute, if you want to add your comments, your questions, your thoughts, send us an email to team@mychampionscircle.com. You can also get involved if you want to join us on air. We'll obviously want to vet you, make sure you're not going to come on here and preach profanity against what we're sharing. But if you're going to support what we're working on and add some great intellectual conversation, we'd love to have you. So again, you can send an email to us, to our team at mychampionscircle.com. All right, guys. Well, let's get back into it because we are talking about this incredible book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And one of my favorite things about this book is that it does give such simple principles. And we were joking in the green room that this book is not that long. Like, it's really a quick read. Like, you could pick this up and put it down in a day. And that's one of the things I love about it because, again, guys, the principles of success aren't easy, but they are simple. And if you simplify things and focus on principled, tested, proven ways, also inspired by God and also inspired by those who have gone and built wealth and riches for themselves, then this is an incredible resource for you. And we've covered everything from the various laws and the various principles. Today, we're going to get into some great topics and discussions on some of the principles that you might wonder and more modern day perspectives on building finances in a very responsible way. So there's a couple ideas for you, and we'll go ahead and get started. But just wanted to see if you guys had anything you wanted to add before we get it all kicked off and running. And I'll have to remind you that we have to unmute to speak.
Yes, we were just discussing the muting thing. Sorry.
It's okay. We'll get used to this. It's a fun production.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people want me to have a mute button anyways in life. So, but yeah, this is, it's a great book, good introduction to it. And we were kind of talking about today's discussion. And there's a lot of parables in this book, and we've kind of just picked out some principles this time, as opposed to the parables that are in there. We'll try and bring up our friend Arcad, the richest man in Babylon, a little bit, and how he's learned some of these things. But for those of you who've been following along, you should now have tons of money by following the principles so far, and be ready to see what the next step is. And for me, one of that biggest goals is to retire. I want to stop having to work at some point. And today's discussion is going to lead a little bit in that direction about how can we retire and how can we prepare for that time when we're no longer to be earning any money. So I'll build up that and see what your comments are so far.
Yeah. I mean, I love talking about principles. You know, this book does have some great stories, but it also just lays it out. Like, there are so many important principles that we can all apply and follow and learn on a daily basis. And like you said, Ian, like, I'm filthy rich now that we started this conversation. Yeah. Like, I don't know what to do with myself. It doesn't happen overnight, guys. And one of the topics of discussion we'll jump into today, obviously, is all about preparing and gaining what is necessary to acquire wealth and riches, and in your mindset too. And then also amongst the preparations is the planning and the setting yourself in the right foot. So on the right foot, setting yourself on the right foot moving forward. So yeah, I'm excited. Why don't we just jump into it?
Yeah. I guess one of the first ones is, if we're going to have money, we want our goal to work for us. And that's kind of the underlying theme after always keep 10% of what you earn. But after that, it is make the goal work for you. You don't want to make the goal take away from you. And that's debt. So kind of our first concept is debt. And I'll throw out the question, should we ever go into debt? What do you guys think? Is there time to go into debt, or when is it worth being in debt?
Well, I know what Dave Ramsey would say, you know, but you know, on the record, I think certain debts have their purposes. I mean, let's talk about the majority of people go into debt. I mean, most people wouldn't consider your house a major debt. They consider it a major expense, right? Because it's ownership over time. But, you know, I think that there are necessary risks to take, but hear me out. It's necessary, not unnecessary, right? So going into debt, there's some calculated and necessary risks that you can decide for yourself and your business and your life and your family. But at the end of the day, you know, the wealthy definitely encourage us not to risk, you know, more than we should. And, you know, we're talking, I mean, simply, we're talking about, like, you know, don't go into debt for that new Maytag dryer and washer you want. But, you know, you may want to invest in something coming out in the near future. There might be some great stuff available to you. Don't, you know, run a total on credit cards. And I'm going to start listing stuff off if you guys don't stop me. So essentially just literally focused on calculated risk. So yes and no, but I don't want to be too vague, right? I want to be more specific for listeners, but also just to give better advice. But there's a calculated risk to everything.
I love that, John. It reminds me, so Ty and I, we paid off credit cards and we don't want to go back into credit card debt. And we had one of our vehicles at the shop. We put literally $1,300 into it a few weeks ago. And then I was back there yesterday with the same check engine light that they said they couldn't figure out what it was doing a couple weeks ago. So they take it, do a diagnostic on it, and he comes back and he's like, well, it could be this, this, and this. We suggest you fix all these things at once, because then it just rule it out, and it's going to be $690. And I was like, well, I'm not going to pay that today. I was like, what's necessary? You know, my car's been driving fine, having no issues. Just randomly this light comes on and goes off. And they did everything they could a couple weeks ago, right? Like, and anyway, I said, we just put all this money into it, and I'm not going to put this on a credit card today. I was like, what's necessary for me? He's like, well, if you don't do all of this, then at some point we're going to have to go back in pretty soon, because it could not be the wire. It could be this, it could be that. So we just suggest you replace all of it at once. And I said, well, I don't have the cash to pay that today, so I'll come back. And I was like, but I appreciate it. Can I get a printout and the price quotes? And he was like, well, just put it on the credit card. You can apply for it, and then you'll get a, you know, percentage off, and then you can just pay that off when you have the cash. And I said, it's not that I don't have the money. It's that I want to be smart about it. You know, I'm not just going to go throw in $690 because of what it could be. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to put it on a credit card for that purpose as well. And the guy it was like a 10-minute conversation, you know, and he's like, well, I wouldn't drive it very far, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what could happen. It could be a gasket next. And I was like, oh my goodness. But he just really was pushing the credit card. Just put it on now. And I said, but it's not a necessary move that I need to make right now. I was like, that's proven. I've been fine for the few weeks that I've been driving since you couldn't figure it out before, but we'll get it taken care of soon. But he just was blown away that I didn't want to just sit and apply for his credit card or put it on one of my credit cards. And it made me feel good that I was able to stand my ground and be like, it's kind of a stereotype, right? Like, I'm the lady in there without the husband and I'm going to sell you this, you know? And I was like, no, I'm not just going to put it on a credit card because you're telling me to. And it felt good. You know, I was like, I'm going to be my person. And because it's one of those things. Is it necessary? Like you were talking about, is it just the washer and the dryer? Like, yeah, I was like, anyway, it felt good that I was able to stand my ground and not be pushed around by him, like with trying to put me in scarcity of what could happen, you know? And I was like, no, I can go. And come to find out, I take it over to O'Reilly, and the same part that they quoted me $70 for was $21 at O'Reilly, you know? And I just was chuckling. And I can take that to somebody else who will install it with the part that I have, you know? So is a risk that I was willing to take from his scarcity and not throw it on a credit card because just doing my due diligence. But
I like that. Yeah, there's a couple of rules I think that apply in here. As you said, one is take time to find the best deal. And not just don't go for immediate gratification, whether it's, you know, allaying a fear that you have that he's trying to push on you, or the desire for the new washer or a widget or TV or whatever that we want. And I'll give a kind of a rule of thumb for going into debt. If the debt is going to make you more money in the long run, it's worth doing. Buying a house, you're pretty, I can't say guaranteed, but most likely in the long run, you're going to make money off of that house. It's going to be an investment which you receive more than you put into it. Or you need a car. So having a car is going to allow you to get food. For most of us, it's instrumental in our business as well, and we need that to be able to earn money. So going into debt for something that's going to make you money can be this is a rule of thumb. This is not a guarantee. But when you're looking at a debt, say, will I make money or not on it? You know, credit cards are a tricky one. My wife and I, we put everything on a credit card and we pay it off every month. And we get all sorts of bonus points from it. So by putting it on that card, because we have a discipline to pay it off, we're coming out ahead. We're getting more out of it than if we just paid cash. That's not everyone's situation, and to be able to do that. But you know, first thing with debt, avoid it if you can. Famous old saying by, I believe it was J. Golding Kimball in the 1800s, who said, do whatever you can to get out of debt. Even if you have to borrow to do it, get out of debt. First rule of debt possible, but if you go into debt, try to only do it for something that's going to give you more money in return than it's going to cost you to have it. Or if it's a necessity you can't avoid. But I know, raise of hand, any of us ever been in debt? We all have at some point. Yeah. So once you're in debt, they give an example in here of how to get out of debt. And George S. Clason, just to point out the name, I've been going to correct you, but I was afraid I was saying it wrong before. So he gives a formula that when you're earning something, first of all, 10% is yours to keep. then take 20% to pay off your debts. And he gives the advice to pay off equally all of your creditors with that 20%. And go to each creditor and say, I'm going to pay you back. I have 20% of my income that I'm going to divide among everyone, and I'm going to pay you all back equally. And most creditors, even big corporations, are willing to work with people who are trying to work. He gave a fun example. The one creditor who said, no, I don't want to do that, said, okay, well, I'll stop paying you until I paid off the rest. Then they changed their tune. Said, okay, we will take the smaller amount because it's better than the nothing we were getting before. So kind of there's some different strategies. I recommend that. I also would say, look at what your highest interest rate is and see if you can pay that off first, because that's where you're losing the most money. We at one point had a student loan that was like a 0.5% interest rate. There's no reason to pay that off. Let's pay off other things first. So there's my initial debt conversation.
Yeah, I'll go out on a whim here and say that most people have credit cards these days, and if you don't, you're weird. You're not normal, and that's just what society has taught us. But many of us, and I'll speak from example. Many of us don't know how to use them, and I love what you said, Ian. Like, you've got to have a responsible plan of attack to work them. Lauren, your example is incredible. Like, have the ability and the strength to put your foot down and say, no, that's just not what I do with my finances. And in personal development, we talk about this stuff all the time, AKA focus on what it is that you're capable of. When I was given a credit card, somebody should not have done that. They should have done their background checks, and they should have looked at my finances and said, is this guy responsible enough to hold a card? And, as a youngster with an exciting, enthusiastic idea of money, I definitely wasn't responsible with credit cards. And, that just comes from a lack of experience. Most of us feel and think that we have that experience just because we grew up maybe around it. But you've definitely got to learn to do those things and to focus on, more focus on saving than you are spending. Love the principles you shared too. I mean, to get out of debt, live off of only 70% of your income. But again, principles from the book here: pay yourself first, save 10%, that goes to you. And then I love this idea of taking 20% and spreading it around your debts, looking for highest interest and the thing that weighs you down the most. And so they talk about debt snowballs and baby steps and all kinds of things, and there are effective ways to do it. What I found, you guys, is that even if your plan of attack to eliminate debt is simple, just by writing things down, like literally taking this pen to a paper and writing things down, you're that much closer to understanding where you need to go. And it puts your ideas, your thoughts, your strategies and tactics into action. We teach this every day in personal development. Like, write it down. People think that because it's in here, that we got this, we got it covered. Well, there's a lot of things going on in there, and our brains, they go through a lot each day. So, my addition to this is literally write it down and focus on the simple aspects and develop a plan. And many of us have been down this road. And so I love hearing the stories of Ian, who's able to pay his credit cards off every month. Don't get into that situation where you can't. And that's what Lauren did with her example. So I love that. And I'm always willing to sacrifice myself out to the middle of the road or under the bus per se, to share the mistakes I've made with finances, because it's a great learning lesson for all those to understand.
I love that. And just to go to actually writing it down, I am old school and I carry around notebooks, and if it's in my phone, I get it there, but I'm not like looking at it all the time. I have to go find it in a folder per se, but I have a notebook at my desk, by my nightstand, and then in the kitchen. And I'm writing things down so that it's like, okay, oh, I actually need to do that, right? Like, but also the fact of brain dumping it by hand, like writing it down, for some reason it does stick in my head better than just like typing it out or just trying to keep it in my head. It actually moves to the forefront, like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it's just weird how the brain works. But I also have a question for you guys. So going back to my car example, like, I've got the money in savings, right? And I'm happy to report, because I'm horrible at savings, you guys. That's my admission there. But since we've started these discussions, I've saved up $600 into just my personal savings. Like, I've just made it, I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. Plus we have our family savings and whatnot. But so going into that, I'm like, yeah, I could just pull cash out. It's not that I don't have it that I can access to pay that $690, but it's not necessary that I need to spend that at the moment, right? Like, I'm not going to go up. My car's not going to blow up, even the scarcity that he's trying to put me in. Because he's like, it could go $690 to $4,000 real quick, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to happen today. So what from your opinions, like pulling that from the savings, when do you actually access that savings? What things do you use it on, type thing?
Okay, I'll jump in with that. And there's two things. So first of all is safety. And following with your example, is it an immediate safety issue with the car? Is going to more money or health or injury if you don't fix it. We need an expert. And it kind of sounds like the first place you went to might not really be an expert, even though it is a car shop. So find experts to talk to about these things, whether it's a car, whether it's buying a home, whether it's a new outfit for work. Talk to the experts to see if that purchase is going to be something that's worth doing. An example in the book where a man goes to the moneylender, and the moneylender says, well, how can I help you? And he says, well, I've come across some money and I need to do with it. And the moneylender says, this is wonderful. Come. And he sets out a big feast for him, because says, no one ever comes to me, the richest person who knows how to make money, and ask my advice. They just want to borrow money when they make a mistake. So find experts and talk to experts about the issues you're facing is the first one. Second one, I'm going to go back to my comment, the same with debt. Is this something that is going to make you money? Or is it something that's going to cost you money? If it's something that's going to make you money and earn you more, then I'd say it's okay to pull it out and use it. If it's something that's going to cost you money, then no. And that's a very general, broad one. And obviously there's no guarantees, but I would say that's the first rule of thumb. Don't go into debt. Don't pull out of your savings. That money you're saving is to make it work for you later on. And if it's not working for you and it's not critical to your life or your children's life, then let it earn its little bit in the bank until you have a better way to invest it.
I love that. Thank you for your input.
I love it. Touche and ditto and all of the above. I think this is a great question. And, when we get into the next topic, I definitely want to share some ideas, but I'll wrap this one up by just saying, when it comes to savings, right, there in the word save should be a big piece to it, right? When you know what you should do with it, in its own description, it's not something worth spending. It's not it's not a joy fund. It's not a rainy. Some people call it the rainy day fund, right? And I don't even like that because I get bored on rainy days, and I find ways to get outside and to be active no matter what the weather's like. So I don't know. I literally call it the savings, and if you can put things where they grow, where they make you money. I love that perspective that Ian shared, because again, if it's not making you money, then why are you doing it? It must be something of great pleasure if it doesn't make you money and it's worth it to you. And if it doesn't bring you great pleasure, then reevaluate. It's not the best option. But great question. Thanks for asking it, Lauren.
So you're saying I shouldn't just take that out and buy a new phone just because I want it and it's on sale?
Well, according to Apple, you really are supposed to do that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They tell me I only have to pay taxes.
And we all know that there are never deals ever happening at phone companies for new iPhones or new whatever. Right. So take advantage of the.
Oh. But it does come down to that too. What do you really need? You may need a high-end phone for your business because you need the capabilities, or sometimes you need to just portray the image that you're successful. There was a question I saw posted a while ago in a different forum. Should you trust a financial advisor who drives an old car? That's a good question. Are they frugal and saving money, or are they unsuccessful and don't have enough money? I'll leave that one out there, because we probably have to move on to the next topic with it.
Food for thought.
Yeah, food for thought with that. But so we're putting things into savings. We want to grow that savings. And the second topic that I put in here is, how can we earn more money? How can we increase our cash flow? Because it's easier to make more money than it is to cut down spending. It's like the dieting analogy. A good workout, you can burn a couple of hundred calories, but a good meal, you can eat 1,000 calories. At least I can. Which one do you focus on? In dieting, you focus more on your eating because that's where the bigger chunk is. In saving, you focus more on your earning potential because that's where the biggest area is going to be. And I'm just going to list a couple of things real quick and then kind of get your perspective on this and maybe experiences you've had. But I'd say to increase what you can put into saving, to increase your flow of money coming in, gain new skills. They can either advance your job or get you a new job. And big one nowadays is side hustles. What can we do on the side to earn more money? And let me just kind of throw those ones out to you and get your thoughts on those.
Yeah, I absolutely love this conversation. When it comes to, I'll start with gaining new skills, right? So when it comes to learning things, we've all heard the phrase, time is money. And I like and dislike that phrase so much at different times in my life, because when you put time into one thing, it has a cost to how much you invest your time into other things. And if you invest your time into learning new skills to help you produce and gain more money, then that is a productive way. Now, I'm not saying invest your time into a really expensive college education that's going to take you half your life to pay off. I am saying that you can go on YouTube, you can go on courses, you can learn anything. You can enroll in courses without being a full-time tuition paying student in your local university or college or state college, right? You can find all sorts of ways to learn. I may sound like a millennial when I say this, but YouTube University is my go-to, and I've learned so much from the access there. And there's just a lot of new things you can do. But again, like, For example, I spent, here's a great example. Actually, in college, they asked us to build our own website, and they taught us how to use WordPress. Well, this was a really, really interesting project because if any of you guys know about WordPress and coding and all that stuff, it is a new language. It is like learning Chinese. And when it comes to like understanding how a website operates, it's a completely new thing. And I built my own website, and after 80 plus hours of investing my time into learning the speak and the language of WordPress so that I could change the font color and size on my on my website, I recognized that this was something that I could literally take my own money and pay someone else to do, because I did not see myself building websites for the rest of my life. It was not a useful skill for me, though I appreciated the knowledge that it took to build a website. It was a skill set that did not benefit me. And to this day, my personal website has a lot of work. It needs a lot of work, but I have a landing page that I paid money to just have quickly thrown together, and it is attracting more traffic than my website ever has. And so that's just an example, of course. I mean, it's not the same for everybody, but again, you need to calculate which skills are going to earn you money. Now, here's a skill set that did earn me a lot of money. I invested in a sales course that gave me some really, really great information. And they also sent me a couple card decks of flashcards for handling objections in sales. And I bought 3 of them, and it was worth my time to do that, to study them, because as I get on phone calls, I'm familiar with the rejections and objections that people give in the process of sales, and it's allowing me to make better decisions. So when it comes to gaining new skills, like, don't just jump into something because it sounds fun to do. Unless it's like the wife really wants you guys to take cooking classes and go, do something fun together. Like, that's different. All right. Don't balance the, what's a good skill to learn. And then you use that same skill in the time that you're spending time with your loved ones. Right. But when you are learning a new skill and you invest time into that skill, man, make sure that it's a profit producing or a income producing talent and skill. Otherwise, what are you under basket water weaving? Unless you've got a really great marketing and sales plan for that, I don't see the I don't see the need for it. So, anyways, I may be a little bit more rudimentary on this, but I think that there's so many applicable ways to learn new skills.
I love that, John. It correlates exactly with what Ty and I've done with our business. We own a graphic and media design company, and he was doing solely design work, right? Like, that's what he trained in, that's what he mentored in, and we were doing that, and we make money, right? But we were talking with one of his mentors, and he said, if you want to up to the next level and really be able to bring in and double or triple your income for your business, he suggested going on and learning ourselves how to do the websites, how to build them, and then, because Ty already was designing them, but go learn that extra step and be able to do it ourselves. And it literally more than tripled our income through that business, being able to offer that extra set of skills. And our projects get done quicker because we're not waiting on somebody to do the back end and then Ty to come in and do the design work. He's able to go in and knock it out together. And it's an example of building those new skill sets. It was scary at first because he's like, that's not really what I planned on. I love the design work side, but it ended up being a very good investment for him to take time and learn those skills, and it's paid off. And we get higher quality clients. It just up-leveled our business to a different level.
Love that. And that really illustrates that earlier principle of when it's okay to go into debt, whether it's time or money. When is it okay to learn a new skill and to pay that time to learn a skill? when there's going to be a result that comes out of it that increases your ability to earn, increases your potential, and to some degree increases your quality of life. As long as you don't get so wrapped up in the quality of life that you destroy your quality of life. Moderation in all things. And I'll follow with Jon and counter being the old guy in the room. You can learn all sorts of things on YouTube, and you can learn the knowledge and skills are there to learn, but it depends on your personality as well. So my wife is a brilliant person, super hard worker, but she is not an entrepreneur. And in this group, we tend to attract more entrepreneurs who say, I can learn it myself. I can do it myself. I can take those risks. She doesn't want to take those risks. For her, the education was the way to get into a good job with a steady paycheck, steady benefits, potential for growth. And she certainly looked at those things. She went on to an MBA and to be able to progress in her job and put the time into that. But like everything, you need to have a plan and know ahead of time. Are you a risk taker, or do you need that stability? In which way do you want to move forward? Because there's no right and wrong. Well, there's no right answer. There's a lot of wrong answers out there. But again, write it down. Know what you're looking for. Know your plan, and get the one that fits for you. So with those skills, I'll turn it back to you guys for comments on that. Sorry, my mind started to go a different direction, and I thought maybe I shouldn't go there yet.
No, that's okay. Just to add to that, no, I love that. I love that, people learn differently. Two really great examples, right? From YouTube University, I knew that I was in the market for a new dryer, but I wasn't willing to pay for it. And I just, for some reason, I felt like I could do it myself. And so, 4 hours later, after watching a 10-minute YouTube video on repeat, I was able to fix my dryer, and it had another few years on it that it continued to work. So, there's that calculated risk, right? Rather than spending money to have someone fix it for me, I invested my own time, took a few hours to do so, and I saved a lot of money. And I also, kept the life of my product or my household item a lot longer. So it worked out great. Same thing goes for cars. There's all sorts of shops that offer small oil change classes and just things that can help you to sort of be attuned to things that are modern day skills. Not that you have to become a master of something, but something that you can learn so that you can save money. I've learned how to take the oil pan out of my car and how to change the oil if I need to. But most of the time I'm in a bind and I'm just in a hurry. So I just run to, whatever store will or whatever shop will do it real quick. But in the event that I want to save money and then I want to take the intentional time to apply a skill, absolutely. It's very, very, very applicable and acceptable. I wanted to go ahead, Lauren, and then I want to add a thing to new job stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think at some point in life, I know for us, it was necessary. We didn't have the extra funds without going into debt to be able to go and necessarily just like get the oil change or whatever. So Ty learned those skills so that we could save money and be able to do those things ourselves. So I think for some people, that's where you're at in life. That's going to help you get ahead. You go do it. Like you have the time and you're willing to learn it. That's going to better your situation. Go do it. But it's, like you said, it's not for everybody. If you're not willing to learn and do it correctly, then it is worth leaving it to the expert, But I love that you watch them on repeat, because that's how I do my baking and my cooking. I am not good at cooking and baking. So I get my videos set up and I'm watching them on repeat, like go back to this step again. And I do that for baking, cooking. You do it for fixing your dryer.
Yeah, I love that.
Just to throw in there real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Going back to that debt one, how do you get out of debt? If you're in that situation, that's when you have more time than money. And that's when you're going to need to go without. You're going to need to fix things yourself. or have a good network of friends where you can trade services. Lauren can bake me cookies and I'll go change her oil. And share that. And we each save money. We each come out ahead by doing things like that.
No, I love that. A couple quick things I wanted to add too. When it comes to making more money, right? There's a strategy, there's ideas, there's all kinds of things. We could do an entire podcast episode just on this topic alone. I feel like we could do for each of them, but essentially one of my favorite things to talk about is that skill set of either advancing in your current career or getting a new job or finding side hustles that operate and work and make you money. Because again, it's not all about making money. It's about increasing that cash flow, the accessibility, because the more you make, the more you pay yourself. And that's a principle worth talking about. So a couple thoughts I had is obviously evaluating your own job. Now, a lot of us emotionally get attached to our work because we've spent so much time in it. Just like any relationship, the more time you spend together, the harder it is to break up or to leave or to make that transition out. And I'm not saying make transitions and back out of relationships, but what I am saying is you invest time where you feel is best for you. And if you're willing to accept and find growth opportunities within your work, within your career. And I love this because Ian just mentioned, not all of us have the entrepreneurial spirit to go out there and, make a side hustle happen. But if you're in your career and you've been there for a while, it's time that you start asking questions. You start stirring the pot, because one of the things that I think people are most fearful about when it comes to their own work is asking for raises or asking for more opportunity, because they don't want to come across as they don't want to be perceived as they don't have money, or they don't want to be perceived as they're asking for more, or that they're greedy. Most people think about how people think about them. And in reality, they don't care. No one really cares. But that's what an HR department and an accounting department are all for. They're there to balance and find and make sure that their employees are happy, and to give them what it is that they need, so that they can continue to operate at high levels of performance. And so it's about time you start asking questions. So if you're looking to build your income, grow your skill set, you can do that from the comfort of your own work. Just ask for more opportunities. The other piece to this too is you might actually consider getting a new job. Like literally, if there's another job in a different department at the same business, it's much more likely that you will be considered highly for that position if you're a hard worker. And that's something that just goes without saying. If you're in a business and you like the company, but somebody elsewhere is getting paid more for what you do and they do less, that's a huge flag to tell you that, maybe your time with this company is over. Maybe it's time to go shop around and find a different one, someone that's going to pay you what you're worth, because that's the thing that we all struggle with, is knowing what we're worth and getting paid that. I think most people will say, I'll take what I can get. That's not a great experience. That's not people say be humble, right? That's not a I don't know how to say the word. It's not a humility thing. That's a humiliation thing. Like, go get paid what you are worth, and focus on that in the process. Now, don't obsess about it and ladder climb until you've destroyed relationships and have moved past everyone. I've heard many stories of people taking their friends' jobs or getting the promotion over people who've worked longer. Like, look, just take the opportunities as they come. I know I'm briefing through these really quickly, but again, we could spend an entire podcast talking about this stuff. And if you do want to talk more about it, send us an email. We can dedicate an entire episode to this. But the last thing is side hustles. If you do have that entrepreneurial spirit and you want to make extra income, there are so many side hustles and ideas. I tell my story from stage all the time. My mom helped us make extra money so that we could go on vacations like normal people. We were sort of poverty stricken as a family growing up at one point in our lives. And in order to be normal and go on vacations like all the other families and kids did during spring break, we had to work hard. So my mom started a vending machine business, and we learned really great skills from that as kids. packaging the vending machines and delivering the snacks and so forth. We learned how to mow lawns. We did whatever we could on the side in our spare time to make extra money. That was something that we were willing and worth doing. So I just wanted to share that. I know it's brief. We have another whole list of topics we want to cover, but I just thought I would just go over real quickly some of the things you guys should have perspective on when it comes to earning and saving and putting your money in the right places.
Yeah. I wanted to add a little to what you were saying. I think it might be good to keep on this topic for a little bit, if that's okay. But I think when you have a job, for the traditional jobs, the easiest way is to make more money, is to ask for it. And sometimes it's amazingly easy. So I was managing a car rental agency at one point, and we dealt with insurance replacements. So we would go to the body shops and they would send us referrals. And there were a couple of competitors that they would split their referrals between. And my boss said, well, go ask this company for all of their business. And I thought, yeah, right, this is going to go real good. But as a good employee, I went to the body shop and said, we'd like to get all of your business. They said, okay. I thought, wow, that was easy. All it took was asking. So I went to the rest, and some said yes, some said no. But I was able to make a significant increase in our business just because I asked. A lot of times in a company, all it takes is asking your boss for a raise or for a promotion to a new position. And as we look at that, I would say for people in a traditional job, look and see who's doing the job that you like and want to do and is making more money. And then how do you get that job? Do you ask for opportunities? Do you ask for experience? Do you ask for the promotion? But be open to doing those things. And you mentioned humility, and there's a double side to that. You want to be confident enough to ask for those things, but you also want to be humble enough to know that we all need to learn. Quite often when we start a new job, we hide from the experts in the job because we don't want them to see our mistakes. I'm going to stay with the other new people that are all making mistakes so that the really good people don't see how bad I am. If you go straight to the top person in the company and say, teach me, they probably will, and you'll get promoted and moved up a lot faster because you're learning from the person who actually knows how to do it instead of all the other people that are still trying to learn. So seek out the people that know what they're doing. Seek out the people in the position you want to be in, and work that direction within a job. And I would say a side hustle is the same. What do you enjoy doing? Because chances are there's somebody else who doesn't like to do it, and they'll pay you to do it.
I love that. I remember Ty was at this job for a while, and he hadn't had a pay raise in a while, and he was getting kind of like antsy about it. Like, I don't want to keep doing this for this pay, and I've been here for so long. And I would always tell him, just go in and talk about it. Go in and talk about it, And Ty his personality is one of those like people pleasers, kind of like, I don't want to make this awkward. Like, I have to see them every day. So I'd rather just keep the peace, And I was like, no, this is their business, is employees. Like, it wouldn't be where it is if they didn't have employees. This is what you do, And it took a lot of coaxing, and he asked advice from some other people as well. But he went in and he was going to ask for, a little raise or whatever. And the guy turned around and he's like, it's like, Ty, I feel so bad. We meant to give you a raise 3 months ago, and we were just so busy that like we forgot, and at that moment they gave him a $3 raise on the spot. But if Ty hadn't gone in and like scheduled that appointment, like, hey, can I just talk? He wouldn't have gotten that raise right then. And who knows how long it could have gone kind of under the radar. And it gave him a lot of confidence, but it was very well for us, and he was so scared, and it was so easy. But it's an example, like, you just got to ask, open your mouth, and you never know what's going to happen. Because he wasn't going to go in and ask for a $3 raise. He was, what raise can you give me? And they're like, oh man, let's do $3, So open your mouth.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm hopefully come across the right way. This is one of those tricky topics. So I was watching an interview with a psychologist, and his specialty is working with women to help them do better in their work. And we all hear the statistics that women are paid less than men and all of these things. And I don't want to go into everything because this is a big, complicated issue. But one part of it is general personality differences between women. And quite often women are less willing to go and ask for a raise, to ask for a promotion, or to come across with the right confidence. And he would work with women on how to be confident in asking for these things. And this is not necessarily a man-woman issue, but each of us can learn that if we know what we're worth and we go in with confidence, quite often we result. There's no guarantees. And if the company, like Jon said, if the company is not willing to work with you, it might be a sign that you need to look for a company that is willing to work with you and appreciate you. And I read recently there are currently 1.7 job openings for every job seeker in the United States. So it's a good time to be looking for a job because companies are hungry for workers.
I'll quickly jump in here and add to that. There's a contrary argument to this too, which is if you feel the need to go build a side hustle to earn more income, that also might be an indicator that you missed the first step and option, which is go to work and find out if there is available funds and more money to be paid out to you. Start there, because why reinvent the wheel? Why create new solutions unless it's a vested interest of yours? Of course, like that's a great idea, but why spend more time doing stuff that takes you away from the things you love and do already, while work, takes away from family time and all that? Like, I hate saying it that way because it sounds like work is bad. Work's not bad. Work's awesome. But at the same time too, is recognize the indicators. If you need to build a side hustle to make more money, then you're probably needing more money. So go talk to your work. If you aren't able to get that, then yeah, the side hustle thing is a really great idea. If you are able to get more money, you may not have to even consider a side hustle because you increased your monthly pay or whatever it might be. So it's just knowing the indicators, being aware of your situation and understanding what resources available to you. There are so many resources, and we haven't even gotten into like where to find free money. We haven't even gotten into like, what are ways to gain and earn more through savings, through discounts, through various programs, through the different things you can enroll in. Like there are so many programs, things, products, services out there where you can save money. And by saving money, it's like putting money back in your pocket because you would spend retail prices on it or whatever. So again, there's so much to be had in this conversation. But again, I think for me, the big indicator, and it could be contrary to what's been said, or it could be, complementative, but whatever it is, just recognize why. Why are you needing to side hustle? Is it because you want to learn a new skill and you would like to profit off of it? Great. Are you making money on the side hustle because you don't make enough at home or at work? Then that's something that you need to recognize as is this something that I can fix? And what Ian and Lauren have shared, absolutely. There's things fixable in every case. And I'll give you guys the horror story. Somebody told me that you can go ask for more money. And so I strategically asked my supervisor at a job I had, and they said, Jon, actually, this is a great conversation because while you're doing well in these areas, you're actually suffering in 2 or 3 areas of your job description. And I said, oh, Tell me more. And it turned out being a really, really great conversation that I had neglected some responsibilities that people were expecting from me that allowed me to say, wow, I need to revisit what my role here at this company was. And it gave me the opportunity to improve my space and to earn an increased merit in my business. And I appreciated that. So don't be afraid of that conversation. The last example I'll give too is I took a great course in college. Honestly, you guys, this course saved my life. It was called Business Communications. And in one of our classes, my professor taught us how to literally ask for a raise. And at this time, I was working at this training center, and I knew that a job opening was opening up, and I wanted to beat everyone to it. I didn't want people to wait for John's name to get called and be promoted. Rather, I put in my letter of promotion to my supervisor and said, "Hey, I've heard and I know that so-and-so is leaving the company, and I feel like I would be a great replacement for them because of this, this, and this. And I have some ideas that can help grow and improve our departments." And no one knew the job was open. They didn't offer it to anyone else. I got the promotion and quickly became one of the highest paid instructors at this training facility. And it was all because I learned this tiny little simple skill that my professor in college invited us to. And you guys probably are wondering, how'd I do on the grade with that assignment? Oh, I aced it. And it was a really cool experience to sit in front of my classmates at college and go through the steps I took by following what textbook prompts my professor told us to use, and show my classmates how it worked. And that honestly sparked so many more opportunities in my life. The side hustles I built in college, I was able to cash flow my full-time college experience by literally hustling my peers. I would go to the Career Development Center. I would take small classes during my lunch breaks on how to improve my LinkedIn profile, get internship interviews, and how to get jobs. And then what I would do is I'd go to my classmates and I'd say, "Hey, for $100, I'll fix your LinkedIn profile. I'll get you an interview, and we'll work on your resume and make it spruced up and top notch." I had like 50 or more of my classmates come to me and say, "Hey, I got an interview next week. Can you help me?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. $100 and I got you." And I helped so many people in college do something that I learned from a class I took and from free resources that were available to the public. So again, I love these stories. I love these examples, but again, just indicators. Be aware of what you have available to you, and don't be afraid to take the risks, because the worst they can say is no, or they can say, "Actually, John, you're falling short in your own responsibilities. Become aware of what you need to do to make more money, with where you sit, with what you have, or with what you need to build and create on the side in order to do what you want to do." So there's my pedestal of stories and examples.
Yeah, I love that. And that to me really brings back what Lauren was saying earlier. Write it down, make a plan, know what your expenses are and where you can cut it, know how much money you need to get, know where you can get that money, know where you want to work for that money. The more you write things down, the more you take the time to plan them, the less risk there is, the happier you'll be in life. There'll be unicorns and roses and rainbows, and maybe there'll be less rainy days the more you take time to prepare. That's a weakness of mine. I don't write things down as much as I should, so I need to talk to Lauren and have her teach me how to do that. And because we're friends, she won't charge me. And I'll save money and I'll make more money and she'll get satisfaction out of it. No. But yeah, take time to plan it. We say save 10%. In order to do that, you need to write it down. Want to increase your earning potential, you need to write down what are your skills, what are your options. And taking the time to do those things, like John said, he took the class in it. He took advantage of free resources and made money off of somebody else's work. That's what we want to do. We want to take those resources, skills, and share them with people who would rather pay us than do it themselves. Like my lawn, I'll pay somebody else so I don't have to mow it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on it.
I love that.
So I kind of have a different perspective that I want to know your guys' thoughts on. So a lot of us are entrepreneurs. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs through Champion Circle. And there's this thing that keeps coming up. I know multiple people in this situation right now. And it goes along with the side hustles. So we're all trying to build our businesses, build our dreams, build our things like that. It takes financing and it takes different things. What is your opinions and advice? So it's not a bad thing, in my opinion, to work as a W-2 employee so that you know your needs are taken care of and things like that while you build your dream. And I think that there's a big stigma around it in some of the communities. And it's so sad to see. And people feel ashamed, to have to admit, okay, I need to get a job because I got to be able to pay bills, but I want to build this business. And what is the stigma? Why is there that? And how do we help break it for people? Because it just breaks my heart to see people in that situation, and it's so-called chasing their dreams when they're not even able to take care of their family.
I'm going to go in my perspective on it that stability is important. I work in finance, and one of my things I tell people all the time is I'm much more concerned about losing what I have than gaining more. My wife is a W-2 employee. She's got the benefits that allows me to be an entrepreneur and take risks. I think part of being an entrepreneur is you can't care what somebody else is thinking, what they're saying about you. You need to build up your business, your life, your way. If people weren't willing to do that, we'd still be walking because Wilbur and Orville would never have dared to take off. Their bicycle shop would still be making bicycles. So yes, people are going to poo-poo on you and tell you that you're not really an entrepreneur because you're hanging on to it. But that same concept of security is going to come in later on with finances, that you invest money in secure areas so you can afford to take risks in other areas. That's finances, that's life. Don't give up all your security. At least I would never tell anyone to give up their day job to pursue their dream unless they could. So ignore the naysayers, listen to me.
I agree with you, Ian. Not that we can fix nor change the stigma behind it, but if you think about it, it makes sense. A corporation wants you to dedicate your life, your business, your 40 hours a week, multiply that by the 10 plus years they want you to work for them so that they save money on the long run and get as much out of you as possible. Public education is a great example of this. I literally, when I was stepping down as a football coach, I had the head coach approach me on behalf of the administration and literally say the words out loud, "We're going to get as much out of you as we can while we still have you." And I know he meant well. I know he meant we could use your skill sets. The young men really want to learn from you. They're inspired by your leadership. I know he meant that, but he said that to my face, we're going to get as much out of you as we can while we still have you. And that's the perspective of a corporation or a W-2. Whereas when it comes to building your side hustle, the corporations want you to dedicate your time to them without distraction. Whereas your side hustles can become a distraction. So it makes sense. But calculated risk is all about what you can provide and what you can invest in and what you can do in order to make that transition. And if you're willing to take a huge pay cut or even a significant or just a chunk of a pay cut to make that transition earlier so that you can build and focus all of your time on building your side hustle, then again, calculated risk. But some people think that they have to be making the exact same amount of money in order to make that transition. And that's up to them. It's really a decision they got to decide for themselves. So I love that. I love that perspective. And you know what? I'll never say this out loud again, but I feel like it's it's a bit taboo, which is, I'm grateful for the stigma because it does motivate and it does encourage people to be different. And without differences, we would probably all be sitting and doing the same desk job. But at the same time, too, that's very contrary to the truth of what most people believe. So whether it's affecting you because you care about culture and stigma, then just take an evaluation of yourself, your time, your environment, and so forth. I was on a speech the other day, and somebody was asking me, like, how do you improve your results as a peak performer, as a high performance person? And I said, change your environment. 100%. There are people that you're hanging out with that you should limit to maybe just Thanksgiving dinner once a year. Like, there are people in your lives that don't deserve your time, your grace, your essence, your awesomeness. And if you can surround yourself with the right people, then the right people are going to encourage you, but also they're going to support you. And the support is going to accelerate the results in your life. And so I feel like we just transitioned to a conversation about accountability and mentorship and all that stuff, but still, like, it's all important principles. And again, we're gaining a lot of context and a lot of great expansions on these topics and principles from the Richest Man in Babylon. And I'm grateful for the conversations today, you guys. This has been a very uplifting conversation. And we didn't even get to a third one, which we can save for next time, but we were going to get into a conversation about retirement and planning and other vehicles and sources, which, by the way, guys, when Ian speaks about this stuff, he is an absolute expert. He is our trusted resource in that. So when we do get into those topics, please, please, please play it back 10 times like you're fixing your Maytag, right? And know that you're going to learn a lot and you're going to gain a lot in that perspective. So I'm really excited to get into that topics, but we'll save it for another day.
Jon, just to kind of give a perspective on that, your remark as well. One thing that advice that I just kind of gathered, and we did it for a while as well while building our business. There's different things now that people look at as side hustles to help you earn money. Like, you can go out and do Lyft rides and DoorDash. People are doing that for a full-time job, right? But it's on your schedule when you have the free time. And there's things like the Bacon app that you can go in and just be a sub for the day in somebody's job. There's like catering events, things like that. And I was talking with one gal last night, and I said, you don't have to go out and get a full-time job tomorrow, but there are ways to bring in money right away to take care of your needs. Like, yes, you want to build your business, let's do it. But she's stressing because she has kids to take care of. She has a house payment. And I said, there's ways to do it. You don't have to just feel like you're stuck having to get a W-2 job so that you can pay your bills, but then feel like you don't have the time. There's ways nowadays. We live in an amazing time where making money has never been easier, honestly. Like, there's so much available to us and opportunities. And so my big thing is just, you take care of yourself and the other things will come, because it frees up the mind space to be able to focus on building your dream and your business rather than worrying all the time about having to pay your bills, having to, like, it's weird. Over the last few years, seeing the stress of like, okay, well, we need this many clients to pay the bills, versus, wow, this is amazing. Like, this money coming in is great. We've paid our bills. Now let's keep building this. And just those mind shifts has changed the trajectory of our finances a lot.
Yeah, well said. Great addition. Anything else you guys want to add? Our conversations are growing longer, which is awesome, which means we have so much more to contribute and share. For our listeners, we just appreciate you guys, and we are open to feedback. We also are taking requests, but most importantly, we want to do good for you in these conversations. We call this, in mastermind lingo, we call this the power of borrowed benefits, which essentially is just the idea that by being inside these conversations, listening to the things, or even just sharing what you know based off of experience and perspective helps you gain and learn and grow a lot more. So we want to encourage you as our listeners to also engage with us. Tell us what you're learning. Tell us what you're growing. Tell us what questions you have, what you're confused about. Let us know how we can help. Because here at Champion Circle, we truly care about the growth of each individual, and it's a trusting environment to get the resources necessary for that. So with that, guys, I want to thank Lauren and Ian for their time today. We've been on the phone for a while now. It's time to get out of our chairs and go burn some calories, because we've been sitting for a minute. So I just want to thank you guys for all the great conversations. Ian for leading the conversations and preparing for each of these. Really appreciate it. And we have one more session on the Richest Man in Babylon, and then we'll transition to our next book. But we'll open it up to our audience, whatever they'd like us to discuss, or we can finish that conversation based on the retirement plans, investments, long term, and stuff for retirement. So I think that that's a really great place to finish up our conversations. But also, if you guys think of any great resources, we'll post it on our page and give it to you. And of course, subtle plug here, or not so subtle plug. Please, if you want, check out Champion Circle. We have online masterclass opportunities. We have in-person networking events, and we also do something called Play to Connect, which is absolutely fun. We get together on a monthly basis and go do adventurous, fun things together as professionals and just shoot the breeze, hang back, build relationships, and so much more. It's a play date for you, your spouse, and for adults only. So we encourage you to attend and find us somewhere where we are doing these activities. So mostly in Utah right now, but we're expanding across the Intermountain West and making our way towards you in a city close. So please just send us an email, connect with us, and we're excited to give all of that to you. Any last words or thoughts, guys? Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. All right, we'll see you next time on the Champion Reads Book Club and podcast, and we'll look forward to hearing from all of you as well. Signing out.